Okay, Wednesday, 10th of April, 2024. So you can't spend your Bitcoin. You can't buy anything with it. So there are ways to there are ways to spend Bitcoin. So to say that you can't buy anything with it is a bit ridiculous. It's a bit short-sighted. Nor is it very creative. Because there are ways indeed. You have this Bitcoin. Well, who has Bitcoin? Well, I don't know. Well, someone might have Bitcoin. And then how do you turn that into stuff? Food, clothes, you name it. There's always the traditional way of selling it into pound or US dollar. That's fine. But the thing you've got to consider with that is KYC, AML, which is paperwork and bureaucracy, moving it from the exchanges into the banks, as well as all brokers, but also capital gains taxes. So there's complications, there's bureaucracy, there's taxes involved. But it's very straightforward. So, easy and straightforward, but paperwork. The alternative way is you could use it as collateral. And there are exchanges out there where you can use your Bitcoin as collateral and use that money you get from the collateral on a loan and use that money as a loan to buy stuff. Now, that's going to have other implications with taxes. Now, of course, we're all adults here. You figure it out. You have a loan and, what's the amount of tax due on that? I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. You tell me, comment below. Now, so that's one way, but that's an interesting way because you want to have a small amount of your overall position of as collateral. So you have a certain amount of Bitcoin. You don't want to use too much of it, nor too little of it for the collateral. Too little is being too much, and you risk having problems with regards to margin calls or other issues with the broker because of the market fluctuation, for example, depending on the time horizon. But also too little and you're not being efficient. You could borrow more and the risk would be roughly the same depending on percentage of how much you borrow from your collateral. Okay, it varies, all sorts of things, but there are ways to do that out there. And there are ways to get things like Bitcoin-backed credit cards. Very nice, very fancy, a little expensive, but there are ways. Another way, and this is a bit more nuanced, there seems to be a way of getting like a Bitcoin debit card, which I guess you'd have to sell the Bitcoin into like a fiat or Tether, and then fund said credit card, and you can spend it as it is. I don't know the techniques or methods behind that, but it seems to be a way, and I can think of one brokerage that does that specifically. But okay, fine. Another way, and this is much more exciting, is Lightning Network. A layer 2 scaling solution. You've got the base layer of money, Bitcoin itself, unchanged as it is, decentralized, apolitical, fixed supply, all the usual buzzwords, nice. And then everything built on top of that, like Lightning, like Taproot, even like Segwit, I'm not sure, but certainly Lightning. Now from there, with that, and from there, we can have all kinds of third-party apps that facilitate Lightning Network transactions. Okay, very nice. So you got a Lightning Network app on your phone, you got some Bitcoin on there, a little bit here, a little bit there, whatever. You go to buy something and there's a point of sale device in terminal that pays for it, done. You can pay using Lightning, there it is, with the vendor himself. And most likely online as well, but that's a bit more, I'll come back to that. Point of sale in person, perfect. And I can think of one specific place, at least, that does that. Now, there's a few websites out there that shows you like maps and locations where to buy Bitcoin from. Places, vendors, websites, whatever else. And even in some places, there are whole communities of it. I can think of El Zonte in El Salvador, and I think it's called Bitcoin Island in the Philippines, and also a community in Guatemala. I've totally forgot the name right now. But yeah, there are places out there, places that natively accept it. Therefore, you haven't got to use a third party, a broker or a credit card or whatever else, or even bother with collateral or selling. You can sell it and they accept it. I even saw an amazing tweet a few months ago of some taqueria, some taco restaurant in El Zonte, in El Salvador, that were on a Bitcoin standard. And that's something else. That's a complete different video, where they were pricing their food in Satoshis, and you would presumably only could pay in Satoshis as well, nothing else. And that's another conversation. So there are things out there. There are grassroots movements out there to accept Bitcoin natively, and this grassroots is in from the ground. their own initiative, communities, societies, whatever else. Now, online. Now, years ago, there was a website, and there probably are other websites now, that allowed you to pay with like a pound or dollar, pay via a third party, a payment processing gateway, and they would take that money and, you know, keep a portion for themselves and use the rest to buy Bitcoin at current market price and give it to the vendor. And that's what I used to do at one point, 10 odd years ago, 8 odd years ago, in one business I had. I wanted to accept Bitcoin, and we had to go through this company in the Netherlands, I remember it, where someone would buy, they would spend pounds, whatever. They would take the company would take some, buy the Bitcoin with it, keep some, buy Bitcoin, and give me the rest in Bitcoin. You know, they buy Bitcoin with it. Perfect. So there are ways you could do that if the vendor has that kind of integration already. Now, of course, if. Now, I'm building a business, and that's something I'm aspiring to, but it's just step by step. It's just, I've got other things to sort out, to build this, build that, you know, bit by bit, layer by layer. But that's something I'm looking forward to doing, looking and excited to do, because it's going to be a really cool little innovation. So when people say you can't spend Bitcoin, yes, you can. You just don't know how. You know, peer-to-peer, as it is, with Lightning Network, uses collateral for a broker, credit cards, you name it, there are ways. That is not really FUD anymore, so to speak. That has been debunked. So there are ways to do it, and there are techniques and methods and all the rest. So it's fine. You can't spend it? Yes, you can. You can't buy anything with it? Yes, you can. I'll have to link a few links below in the description, because there's some pages that come to mind, some Twitter pages of businesses in the States that do accept it natively. I remember something about a wine company and another one. I want to say beef or meat or a butcher, something like that. But I remember explicitly a wine company. Powerful stuff. But otherwise, this FUD, or you can't spend your Bitcoin, you can't buy anything with it. Nonsense. That's like FUD from Fiat Uncertainty down from 2014, 15, 16, 17, more or less. So it's old stuff, but it's amazing how over time, through clarity, education, awareness, a lot of these FUDs slowly disappear and just become debunked and like old news, and like, oh, that was dismissed years ago. No one talks about that now. So it's amazing. And this is one of them. Because I was watching a great video on a great channel, well, a few weeks ago now, yeah, a month ago, and just now got round to recording the video, and I thought it'd be a good topic to talk about. So, you can't spend your Bitcoin? You just don't know how. And there are ways, there are techniques. But otherwise, you will see me tomorrow.